These notes today are going to go over measurements and significant figures. So a lot of you have been asking me what number to round to. Well, this video is going to explain how we determine how many digits we get in our answers. So we're going to start off with how do we take a measurement. And so measurements come in two forms. You can have qualitative observations. These can describe the qualities of something. And we have quantitative ones, and those describe the quantity or amount of it, so it's normally numerical. So the types of measurements that we'll be taking in this class include mass, volume, temperature, length, and time. So mass is the amount of matter that we're working with. That is generally measured in the units of grams, and that includes milligrams, kilograms, but grams. And the tool that we use is typically the electronic balance or the electronic scale. So that's what we use to measure mass. The next one is volume. Volume is the amount of space a substance occupies. So for us in class, in chemistry class, we normally measure that in liters or in milliliters or kiloliters, but you can also measure volume in, if you're doing like mathematical terms, using mathematical equations, centimeters cubed or meters cubed is also a measurement of volume. In class, we would typically use a graduated cylinder to measure volume. You can also use a volumetric flask, a beaker, or a pipette, but we most often use a tool called a graduated cylinder. Temperature is another type of measurement that we take. That is the average kinetic energy of particles, which we have discussed before. In class, we will measure that in degrees Celsius, but remember when we are working with gas laws, we would have to convert that to Kelvin. And we use a thermometer, to measure our degrees Celsius. Length is the distance from one point to another point. In class, we measure that in meters, so we do not use inches, but we are in meters, centimeters, kilometers, and we use a meter stick to measure that, or some sort of ruler that's in centimeters or millimeters. And the last one will be time. That's the duration of something, measured in seconds, minutes, hours, and we can use a stopwatch or a timer in order to measure those things. Now, before we get into how we calculate how many digits we get in an answer, the first thing we have to learn is what is a measurement and how do we take an appropriate measurement. So all quantitative measurements must have numbers and units. Now, the numbers are very specific. You get all your certain digits, so those are the numbers that you can read on your tool. So you'll notice that those are calibration markings that are associated with a number. You also get one guess digit, and that tells us how close we think we are to that calibration marking. So I'll do an example to the right in a second. The second thing that all measurements need are units, and that tells us the type of measurement it is. So we can't have naked numbers. You can't just say 6, because we don't know if that's 6 miles, 6 seconds, 6, we don't know. So you always have to have some sort of unit associated with it. So let's take a measurement using this graduated cylinder that I have drawn. So if I am looking at it, and on a graduated cylinder, we always read where we see at the bottom of this sort of like dome shape that the water makes, and that is called our meniscus. So we always read to the bottom of our meniscus. So if I'm looking at this, I can see that I have a calibration marking for 60, and then technically this is a marking for 61, 62, 63. So 63 are my certain digits. I can see those marked on my actual tool. So 60, I'm going to use a finer pen. So 63 is what I know for certain. Now, I can also look at how close do I think I am to that 63 mark. Do I think I'm exactly on it? In that case, it would be 63.0. Do I think I'm closer to 64? Then it would be 63.9. I think that I am very close to the 63 calibration mark, but slightly above it. So I'm going to say that my guess digit is 1. Now, my guess digit might be slightly different than your guess digit, but they should be somewhat near each other. So the appropriate measurement for this tool would be 63.1. I get all my certain digits, the digits that I can see in the calibration marks of my tool. So I can see 60, 61, 62, 63, and a guess digit. Where do I feel like I am in between those two calibration marks? So that's how you take a measurement, and we'll do some practice in class. Now we go on to, what do we mean by significant figures? Well, now that you have learned how to take a measurement, significant figures are all of the numbers in our measurement, right, that are meaningful. So that means that all of our certain digits plus our one guess digit, those are all significant. So every number that I wrote up here has meaning, right? The 63 tells me where I was in the tool. The 0.1 tells me how far away from certain calibration marks I was. So all measurements, all the numbers in a measurement are considered significant. So all certain digits plus one guess digit. Now, when we do this, we can get an idea of how precise our tool is by seeing how many calibration markings there are and what place they go to. So a tool that goes to, let's say, the tens place is not as precise as a tool that goes to the 100ths place. So that's just something to keep in mind as we continue to practice. All right.